So, hello, good day everyone. This is the course unit 8, the topic for the yung last week sana. So, nirecord na ko na lang ngayon. So, the topic is the Philippine laws that promotes nationalism and patriotism. So, this is the part 1. So, for Friday, ang ating i-discuss is yung part 2 and part 3. So, madali lang naman to. Okay, we have RA 10086. So, what is RA 10086? It is an act strengthening people's nationalism through Philippine history. So, by changing the nomenclature of National Historical Institute into the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, strengthening its powers and functions and for the other purposes. So, also known as the Philippine Cultural Heritage Act of 2010. So, again, RA 10086 is also known as Philippine Cultural Heritage Act of 2010. So, ang ginawa ng RA 10086, pinalitan niya yung pangalan ng National Historical Institute sa pagiging National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Naging siyang NHCP. Okay, ano ba yung ginagawa natin dyan? Or ano bang ginagawa ng batas na to? Or ano ba yung ginagawa ng National Historical Institute? As we all know, sabi nga niya, historical. So, it means they preserve, diba? Or sa kanila yung preservation of our history. So, act shall be known as strengthening people's nationalism through Philippine History Act. So the state shall give utmost priority not only to the research on history but also to the popularization of history. Sabi natin, a story without history is a shallow story, 'di ba? Parang ano lang, mababaw. So kailangan sa lahat naman, 'di ba? Kailangan nating i-preserve ang history kasi ito yung pinagmulan natin, ito yung foundation natin. So this act, sabi nga niya, is known as strengthening people's nationalism through Philippine History Act. So that way, the state will be able to build a Philippine national identity based on unity and pride in diversity held together by a common history. Ayan, 'di ba? Kasi kung wala yung history na 'yan, hindi natin alam saan tayo nagmula, hindi natin alam kung sino ba ang Pinoy or ano ba ang meron sa Pilipinas. So, sabi nga dito, responsible din sila sa mismong tawag dito, sa mismong popularization, hindi lang sa pag-preserve ng history, but also in the popularization of history. Kasi madalas ngayon, katulad ngayon, nowadays, 'di ba? Hindi na nila alam ano ang history. 'Di ba nung nagkaroon nga ng movie na General Luna, 'yon, pinanood niyo ba 'yon? Tapos merong nagtanong na yung mga kabataan ngayon nagtanong, sino daw ba yung ano si yung si Apol si Apolinario Mabini, 'di ba, na lumpo, yung dakilang lumpo. Sino daw 'yon, sabi nila. So, ang nangyayari kasi nowadays dahil nga hindi na masyadong napopularize yung ating history, kaya kailangan meron tayong gantong act. So, renaming, 'di ba, the National Historical Institute into NHCP. Ito yung ginawa ng ating RA 10086. Ano pa ba? So, the NHCP, or known as National Historical Commission in the Philippines, shall be independent agency attached to National Commission for Culture and the Arts. So, what are the general mandates of NHCP? So, the primary government agency responsible for history and has the authority to determine all factual matters relating to official Philippine history. Ayan. So, siya yung responsible for the history of the Philippines or the factual matters. So, what is the composition of the board? Ano yung bumubuo ng NHCP? They have the nine board members, which shall be created to formulate and implement the policies of NHCP relating to the agency's mandates. Also, this NHCP was headed by a chairperson and shall be composed of 5 distinguished historians. Ayan. So, kailangan meron silang 5 distinguished historians. So, representing the private sector or the regular members and appointed by the President of the Philippines. What are the boards of NHCP? Or sinasabi nating 9 members niya. So, ito sila. Director of National Library of the Philippines. Ayan. Director of National Museum. The following shall serve as ex officio member. Okay? Ex officio or automatic. So, Director of National Museum, Executive Director of National Archives of the Philippines, Executive Director of the NHCP. So, pagkatapos nun, meron tayong reorganization. So, nagkaroon ng reorganization. So, we have HSSD or the Historic Sites and Structures Documentation established within the NHCP replacing the existing survey and documentation section. So, parang pinapaganda lang or parang nire-reorganize lang para mas maging maganda yung service nila sa atin. So, ano ba yung function ng tinatawag nating historic sites and structures documentations? Undertaking the survey and identification, documentation, and recommendation for declaration of historic structures and edifices such as national shrines, ayan, monuments and landmarks or heritage houses by the NACP board and maintaining the National Registry of Historic Sites and Structures. So, sila yung nagkakandak ng survey, 'di ba? Para dun sa mga documentation ng mga landmarks natin, monuments, 'yan. So, ano ba yung dapat gawin, ganyan or so whatever. Next, nagkaroon din ng reorganization sa ating Local Historical Committees Network or known as LHCN. Ano ba yung function ng Local Historical Committees Network? They shall monitor, coordinate, support, and upon approval of the board, affiliate various local historical bodies engaged in the collection, documentation, popularizations, conservation, restoration, preservation of historical materials found in the different parts of the Philippines. It shall also record the oral histories of towns, cities, provinces, regions, and people. Kaya nga local. Kasi 'di ba napakalaki ng Pilipinas. So, madami tayong history. So, each local government, katulad ng each province, ganyan, meron silang tinatawag na Local Historical Committees Network. So, sila yung responsible for preserving, 'di ba? Documenting, for the restoration kung ano man ang kasaysayan ng ating lugar. For example, sa Pampanga, meron tayong ganyan. Next, another organization is the MRCD, Materials Research Conservation Division, 'di ba? Replacing Materials Research Conservation Center. So, ang MRCD ginawa para ma-replace yung tinatawag nating MRCC dati. So, ano bang function nito? It shall provide consultancy services, 'di ba? So, nagko-consult sila para saan? To collectors of historical objects that are considered valuable components of Filipino heritage to ensure that preservation. So, restoration and conservation techniques and procedures are in accordance with the accepted standards set in protecting historical objects and materials. So, ang ginagawa dito, sa kanila yung nagko-collect. For example, itong ano na to, bagay na to, nung unang-una pa. So, sila yung mga nadidiscover nila, tapos parang sinasubmit sa historical, sa NHCP, ayan. Sila po yun, sila yung nagko-collect dyan. Sila yung parang gumagawa or paano nila pine-preserve yung isang bagay na yon. Other matters, yan, income donations, ayan, are exempted from tax, importation of scientific, philosophical, historical, and cultural books, supplies, and materials used in the work of NHCP are also exempted from custom duties. Ayan, basta historical, medyo wala na silang tax, ganyan. Kasi nga, pine-preserve natin ang history natin. Also, the revolving fund coming from the income from proceeds of publications, park entrance fee, ayan. Diba? Kaya pag pupunta tayo sa isang mga museum, may mga fees. Ayan. So, nagkakaroon kasi ng fund. So, revolving fund coming from income from proceeds of publications, park entrance fee, and donations rendering technical services, conferences, and workshop shall not exceed 1 million pesos and excess return to the national treasury. Ayan. So, dun po napupunta yan. So, this was approved by the Prospero Sinagrales, Juan Ponce Enrile, and by the President GMA in May 12, 2010. So, again, this is the law of RA 10086, the one building the NHCP, the National Historical Commission of the Philippines. So, we're done with the first law. Okay, now next we have the RA 8044, also known as the Nation Building Act. So it is an act creating this what we called NYC, or the National Youth Commission, establishing a national comprehensive and coordinated program on the youth development, appropriating funds therefore and other purposes. So yan po ang ating NYC. So, ano bang ginagawa ng NYC? It shall be known as Youth in Nation Building Act. So, the state recognizes its responsibility to enable the youth to fulfill their vital role in the nation building. 'Di ba? Sabi nga ni Rizal, ang kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. So, and hereby establishes the National Comprehensive and coordinated programs on the youth development. So they create the structures to implement and appropriate funds to support for the program on a continuing sustained basis. So what are the principles? Bakit tayo merong ganito? Yung the National Comprehensive and Coordinated Program on the Youth Development. So, they promote and protect the well-being of the youth. So, to realize their potential for improving the quality of life. So, 'di ba kaya nga may mga programs na pinapatupad ang ating government for the youth. Yan. Inculcation in the youth patriotism, ayan, and nationalism and other basic desirable values. They also encourage youth involvement in character building and development activities for civic efficiency, stewardship of natural resources to reduce the incidence of poverty and accelerate socio-economic development. So lahat ng to, it is a set for the youth activities. So para ma-preserve natin or malaman natin din yung culture ng ating bansa, and also, 'di ba, para mas maging well-developed yung ating pagiging nationalistic or patriotism sa ating bansa. So, mobilization of youth abilities, talents, and skills and redirecting their creativity for the freedom of our people from fear, hunger, and injustice. So, development program. So, formulation, approval of implementation of the medium-term youth development program for 4 years. So, the national study on situation of youth in Philippines for 3 years. National review, evaluation, and reform for 3 years. And participation. Ayan, meron tayong tinatawag na World Youth Day. Diba kaya ngayong iba, meron tayong mga representative ng youth na sila yung nag-a-attend sa mga ASEAN natin. Ayan. Kasi nalala ko yung aming SK chairman dito sa aming barangay, naging siyang sumali siya diyan sa National Youth Commission. So nag-apply siya ng parang entry niya. Tapos siya yung pinadala sa Singapore for the ASEAN. And then, nagkaroon din tayo ng another development program, continuation, comprehensive, coordinated, nationwide service delivery system comprising what? Existing public and civic services for youth. Kaya nga, di ba, meron silang mga SK natin, may mga programa sila, di ba, or activities. Innovative services and delivery systems institutionalized in areas without or with adequate services to test the validity and feasibility of pilot demonstration project. So, participation of Philippine youth in the Biennial World Youth Day. So, definition of terms. Sino ba yung mga tinatawag nating youth? Youth refers to the person whose ages ranges from 15 years old to 30 years old. So, youth organization whose membership or composition of are youth. And then, meron tayong tinatawag na youth serving organization, registered organization or institution whose principal programs, projects, and activities are youth-oriented or related. So, may alam ba kayong mga ganyan? Kahit yung mga NGO, yung mga ganyan na youth or kabataan lang sila. So, what is the composition of NYC or National Youth Commission? So, it was headed by a chairman, ayan, commissioner representing Luzon, commissioner representing Visayas, and commissioner representing Mindanao. So, 2 commissioners to be chosen at large. Ayan. So, president of the Pambansang Katipunan ng mga Sangguniang Kabataan as commissioner. Diba? Or SK. So, Parliament of the Youth. Delegates shall be chosen by the Commission taking into consideration equal, ayan, and geographical representation among men and women. So, hindi naman palakasan dito. So, kung sinong nakikita nila na applicable, ganyan, merong influence, ganyan, sila yung pinipili nila from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So the president shall be elected and shall preside during the session of the Youth Parliament. So it shall be convened every 2 years. Every 2 years, nagpapalit sila ng mga commissioner. So regular session is 2 to 3 days. So advisory council. Ano yung mga advisory council? Dahil nga kabataan yan. So Secretary of Department of Education, the DepEd, the Culture and Sports, yan, DSWD, the LG, ayan, and the other tawag dito, other agencies of the government. So, ayan, wag na to mga fans. Okay, dahil wala naman tayong magagawa doon. So, done. That is NYC. Okay? That is, again, what is that law? RA is 8044. So, kayo ba nagpa-participate sa mga programs ng SK nyo? Programs para sa mga youth. Yan. So, next. So, ayan na. The next law is RA 1425. Alam nyo ba ang dahilan kung bakit meron kayong Rizal, no limitaring ngire at el filibusterismo? Ayan, dahil sa batas na to. So, an act to include in curricula or the curriculum na meron tayo of all public and private schools, colleges, and universities courses on the life, works, and writings of Jose Rizal. Ayan. So, particularly, his novels of No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo. So, kaya nga, di ba, kapag high school kayo, merong No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo. Tapos naman, kapag college kayo, meron kayong subject na, ayan, life, works, and writings of Jose Rizal. So, authorizing the printing and distribution, therefore, and other purposes. So, yan ang dahilan dyan. So, kailangan talaga, walang nag-college nang hindi tinake yan, or walang nag-high school din nang hindi tinake ang ganyang subject. So, RA 1425. So, courses on the life, works and writing of Jose Rizal, particularly the novels of No Limitangere and Al Filibusterismo, shall be included in the curriculum of college universities, public or private, and all schools, diba? It shall be obligatory on all schools, colleges, and the universities to keep in their libraries an adequate number of copies of original and unexpurgated edition of No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo. So, meron din tayong ganyan sa library. So, the Board of National Education shall cause the translation of No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo as well as the other writings of Rizal into English, Tagalog. Ayan, and the principal Philippine dialects. So, meron pong English yan and Tagalog. So, nothing in this act shall be construed as amending or repealing the Section 927 of the Administrative Code prohibiting the discussion of religious doctrines by public school teachers and other persons engaged in any public school. So, ito, meron din silang amount na 300,000 is hereby authorized to appropriated out of any fund not otherwise appropriated by the National Treasury to carry out the purposes of this act. So, yun lang. So, approved ni Senate President noon, Eulogio Rodriguez, and the President pa noon is Ramon Magsaysay. So, again, this is RA 1425. So, kahit sabihin nyo na, ma'am, si Rizal na naman, pati college nandiyan pa si Rizal. Kasi po, yan, meron pong batas na talagang kailangan yan sa curriculum nyo. So, kahit anong course man ang kuhanin mo, meron po yan. So, that is RA 1425. Kasi 'di ba, kailangan naman natin 'yan kasi kung wala naman 'yan, baka college na kayo nakalimutan niyo na yung ating history. So yan po 'yan. Then the last one we have the RA 390. So, RA 10390, that is an act amending RA 7309 entitled an act providing for the establishment of the People's Television Network Incorporated, defining its powers and functions, providing for its sources of functions and for other purposes, also known as an act revitalizing the People's Television Network Incorporated. When we say revitalizing, parang binibigyang buhay ulit, 'di ba? So, ano yung binibigyang buhay ulit? The People's Television Network. Ano 'yon? So, the Advisory Council, ano bang bumubuo dito? There are 7 members, ayan, with at least 5 years of wide experience and expertise in their respective fields of work. So, they shall propose, ayan, recommend policies, ayan, relating to the network's operation, programming, broadcasting, technical and creative production, development, and management, which shall be the approval of Board of Directors. So, they shall render a voluntary service to the network. No member shall be paid any honoraria allowances and other personal benefits. Parang voluntary service lang yan. So, network general manager, ano bang ginagawa nito? They are responsible for the proper administration and management for the network in accordance with the policies laid down by the board. So, they may be subject to disciplinary powers of the board that may be removed by the board for the cause. So, board of directors may be designate an officer in charge to act in his place and stead during such absent duty. So, ano ba yung employees of the network? The hiring, appointment, employment, promotion, and control, and the other terms of services of employees shall be consistent with the provisions of civil service law. And the position and compensation system shall apply to officers and employees of the network and subject for the approval of the President of the Philippines. So, ano ba yung meron dito? Ito, dito na lang tayo, wag na dito sa mga organization na yan, wag na yan. Ito na lang tayo. Program standards. Ayan. Dito kasi parang yung mga pinapanood natin sa TV, mga parang sinusundan nila. So, presentation of news, ayan, public affair programs, ayan, and commentaries, yung mga documentaries na pinapanood nyo. Diba? GMA News TV, yung sa Channel 11 din, meron yan. Public service program, the educational programs, children's program, agriculture and livelihood program, ayan, diba? Women and youth issues, yan, locally produced and foreign programs, trade service and manufacturing industries, programs that inspire nationalism. Sila yung parang nagre-recommend kung ano ba yung dapat gawin or ano yung meron sa papanoorin natin. So, this was approved on March 14, 2013 and by the President Ninoy Aquino III or Benigno S. Aquino. Si Noynoy. Okay, si Benigno. Noynoy po to. Okay? So, that is the part 1 of our course unit 8. So, I advise you to please watch this record and also yung mga nakaposted na video record sa mga different agencies. So, yun lang and see you on our course unit 9.